Hey, you're listening to the School of Innovation. I'm your host, Yaniv, and my guest today is Laïla von Alvensleben. This is part 2 of my conversation with Laïla. If you haven't listened to part 1, I suggest you pause and listen to it now. Enjoy and stay safe. I want to fast forward to Mural because you met them in Argentina back then in 2014. And today you are the head of culture and collaboration at Mural.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. You're agreeing with me. Good. So I didn't get that wrong.
I am.
Good. I did my research. We're very thorough here. So, okay, for those listeners who don't know or haven't heard about Mural, what is it? Give me the pitch.
Mural is a digital whiteboard that supports teams who want to visualize their ideas and collaborate in a visual way.
Okay.
That is my little pitch.
Okay. That's perfect. Quick elevator pitch. And what does it mean to be the head of culture and collaboration? Like, what is that? Like, can you describe what you do?
Yeah, I'll try my best because my role has changed very recently.
Okay.
Only about a month ago. Because prior to that, I was the head of people operations, and then before that, I was what was I calling myself? I think it was something like remote work coach for their clients,
Right.
which I still do on a freelance level sometimes. But yeah, head of culture and collaboration is essentially my role is to. There's two parts to it. One is to make sure that people are connected. They're behind the mission at Mural. They're motivated and engaged with their work. That they're feeling well. That they're happy and that they're connecting between each other as well. Bonding in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of initiatives and rituals and things that we have to do there. And communication, of course, and then on the other hand, collaboration is really about practicing what we preach. So we're telling all these large enterprises around the world, these different teams, like, hey, this is how you can collaborate better. We have a remote first approach to everything we do. It's like, okay, we say that, but do we do that 100% at Mural? Not always. We're definitely good at it, but we can always do better. So after having done a lot of trainings and workshops for clients, it's now about looking inwards and making sure that as we scale, we can continue training people who join Mural to understand how we can transform the way that we work and how we can work better.
Okay. What I like about the title is that it encapsulates like an introvert and an extrovert perspective. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like culture is sort of like introvert, our culture at Mural, and collaboration is like pulling people from the outside, like extrovert, invert, like pulling people from the outside inside into our culture, or maybe putting our culture out there, I guess. So do you feel like that's what's happening?
That's very, very interesting because I like the way that you phrase it. I never thought about it that way, to be honest. But I think both can be internal, external. But I definitely think there's a mix of both because one of the goals in my role is also to let other people know what our culture is like. The same way, at Hano, that was super out in the open and transparent. Actually, at Hano, we had the opposite problem. People really knew how we worked. But they didn't really know what we did. They would get a bit confused. Like, what are you guys? Like, what do you actually do? Right. So we were always struggling to hey, look at our projects, not just, don't just be inspired by how we work, but actually look at what we're doing because we were doing great stuff and they still are. Yeah. And at Mural, it's the opposite, right? It's everybody, well, not everybody, but many, many, many people know our product, but they don't really know much about the team, which is also a fantastic team and fantastic group of people. So it's about sharing that culture also externally and keep nurturing it internally. And then the collaboration, I would say can be both external and internal. Externally for working with customers, but also internally we have to make sure that we can improve and be more customer focused, even though you're not working with customers.
Yeah.
Or,
And
putting that at the forefront.
Right. And was the culture at Mural like inherently remote? Going back to that, what you were saying in the beginning about culture being right, the impetus of like, remote work is the philosophy, of remote work. Is that the case at Mural? Was it built as a sort of remote work distributed team or not?
I mean, I wasn't there at the beginning, but so I can't say how the culture was in the very beginning, but from what I know, it started in Buenos Aires and they were working remote before. Sorry, this was before they started Mural, but the founders they were developing video games. Mm-hmm. So there was a remote aspect to it with their clients. And when they started Mural, however, there was an office in Buenos Aires and that's where it was based. And then the founder, some of the co-founders went to do an IDEO kind of accelerator for a few months and came back. And then the CEO is still in the Bay Area today. But there was a remote work aspect to it, the foundation of it, like it was at Hano. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is that product is supposed to massively enhance that way of working. So it's like it is part of their philosophy, but not necessarily in the way that they were growing as a company, if you can see the difference. It was more focused on the product, less on the culture. Whereas at Hano, it was the opposite. It was the culture was definitely remote. The product, or we didn't have a product, but our services were remote also, but it was just different. I would say it was like flipped.
And do you, and in your role, do you get a chance to work with clients of Mural?
Yeah, I definitely do occasionally. I've given workshops, webinars, answered emails, helped a bit on support. I do that much less now, but actually, seeing the huge demand we have these days for support, I'm doing that a little bit more now again. So I'm looking to help with customer support, and it's something that I really enjoy as well. I think when you said it's extrovert introvert, I like that because I think that's very relatable to my personality. I can have I don't know the words, but there's like these fake extroverts who are actually introverts, but they can look like they're extroverts. So yes. I think I'm one of those. Yeah. So I can definitely talk. I can do public speaking. I can be friendly, and I like meeting new people in small groups. So it has to be small numbers of people at a time. Once it becomes a huge group, I'm a bit overwhelmed. But I also really care about people and want to be there for them. And so that helps with the culture side of things. I want to make sure people are feeling good, but then the collaboration side is the more extroverted side. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think that for us and myself included, I'm like that as well. We do, and it sounds horrible saying it, but we do take some comfort in this current situation where, we have more control, I guess, of our, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess our interface with people. We have more control over that interface with people. If you get what I mean.
Yes.
It definitely, I think for me at least, being that relieves a lot of the stress that I had before, where you always are surrounded by people. Your interface is open and you kind of have to always manage it. Now it's a lot easier to control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's one of the things, people ask me, would you ever go back to working in an office full time? And my answer is no. I mean, I'm not planning that or missing that in the meantime. And I think it's really a thing of controlling my environment, I can decide where to work from, the lighting that I want, the view that I want to have, what music I want to listen to, who do I want to speak to, and when I really like being independent and having that flexibility. And it's true, in an office, how many times did I find myself, I think I worked for 3 years in these kind of like basement offices where you couldn't even have a window to see anything, which to me is really depressing.
Super depressing.
So not knowing what time of day it was, basically, or what weather, you're like, well, I know it's daytime, but I don't really know what it looks like. I can just kind of see a slot of the sky, like a sliver, sorry. And I didn't like having sometimes my manager sitting behind me and looking over my screen. It's, even though had nothing to hide.
Yeah.
It was just annoying. Or having to deal with, okay, well, so-and-so is going to play such music on the radio. I don't really have a say in it. Or everybody's going to have lunch and I have to have like small talk and have lunch with them about stuff that I don't really care about. I wasn't interested at all in continuing that. So even though it's really nice to go to the office in Buenos Aires, I use it I feel like it's a special treat. If I go to the office, it's great. I have a lot of interactions. I get to meet people, have fun, and I mean, there's so many perks of being in an office as well, but it's not something that I feel that I need.
Okay, so for the question that's on everyone's mind, and I guess for you it's not that relevant, but if you could put yourself in the shoes of other people, what happens the day after COVID-19? Do we go back do we go back to our old selves, or do we hold on to this, new reality, whatever it is, or do we adopt parts of it, or like, what do you think happens the day after?
I mean, first of all, I don't have the answer, obviously. I think it's the end. The result is going to be something in between everything, and it will really depend on everybody's personal situation as well. It's very personal. Everybody's way of living is so different. So some people will probably be running back to the office and can't wait. Some people will unfortunately have lost their jobs and they have no office to go back to. And there's a lot more desperation maybe in finding a job and figuring out how they're going to support themselves or their families. Some will maybe have appreciated what, this way of connecting more with their families and staying home more, but they think they will still try to find ways of, opening up their schedules more, and they're how can I say, they're going more out. I'm hoping that people will enjoy at least having connected more with their neighbors and with their families, if it's gone well. But the reality is that many people still live in very dysfunctional families, and maybe there's going to be a lot of either breakups or divorces or just like separations of some sort.
Yes.
So who knows? I think with work though, with related to remote work, because that's the main thing we're talking about now. I think it's hopefully there's going to be just more acceptance of it, and I think it will be blended more into this kind of like smart working, flexible working mindset.
Yeah, hopefully. I think that I really like your comment in the beginning about this is not what remote work looks like, and I think that, and you might want to think about this if when all of this hopefully very soon ends, and we can go back to a version of our previous lives. I think someone needs to say that. I think someone needs to communicate that wasn't remote work. Let's figure out how to take the good parts of that, right? It catalyzed something, a trend that was happening, but let's figure out what those good things were and keep those, and just get rid of all the, the negative, stressful stuff. I think that would be very useful for people.
Absolutely. And there will be, I think, a phase of relearning once again and readapting, because assuming people become more flexible with working from home, what I've seen from not only from my personal experience, but also from what I've read and people I've spoken to at other companies, when a team is fully distributed, everybody's on the same page, so to speak. Like everybody's going through the same experience. We're all working from our individual computers and we're all communicating that way. It is much easier to have consistency and just say, okay, these are our agreements. This is how we're going to collaborate, and we all stick to it. And it makes sense because we're all in this shared experience together. The tricky part is when you have some people in the office, some people working remotely, some people switching between the two, because the people in the office will collaborate and communicate in one way, and the ones who are remote in another way. And that's what we have at Mural before COVID-19. We were a hybrid team. That's what we call a hybrid team. We have people co-located in offices and people who are remote. And then some people who might, like me, also travel and work at the same time, and continue to change places. So that's really tricky. And that's part of my role as well, is to figure out how do we build empathy on both sides, especially from people in the offices. So I feel like people who work from home already know what it's like to be in an office, but they also they're more autonomous. I feel like they're more used to the ways of communicating that way and making sure that things are transparent and everything. Whereas people in the office, a lot of communication goes on that is not documented anywhere and is not shared. And then, we'll have a meeting, we'll just do like this, and that person's remote. And so they can just kind of jump in the Zoom call and listen, but they're not fully participating or engaging in the same way. And I think that's really hard to do. It takes time to build that empathy and the best practices around that and say, hey, let's be inclusive all the time for everybody, no matter what style of working they've chosen.
Yeah.
So when they go back to the offices after COVID-19, that's going to be another experiment to do.
That's so true. As you were saying that, I was thinking about, a client of mine that I worked with in Hong Kong, and it was more than like the usual client consultant work. It was like I was more part of the team, but I was working from Israel, from Tel Aviv, and they were in Hong Kong. And it's funny you said it. I felt like I was, the uncle from America that's coming to visit, every couple of weeks, bringing gifts and treats, for the kids. And they were all looking at me. Oh, hey, here's the guy from, the uncle from America. And it always took like a day to, kind of find our, rediscover our groove, right? The way that we work together. And I don't know. I think that's what you meant. It felt like that.
Yeah.
That point of potential friction is something that people need to be mindful of. Where there are people who are, it's like the meeting of different contexts, right? Someone is coming from a context that he's on the go, he's traveling, he's seeing a lot of places. The rate of change is higher, and there are people who are in the same space, have their own lingo, have their own kind of DNA, more static, so to speak, in that meeting between the two. Yeah,
exactly. I think the key word here is change and adaptability.
Yeah.
And I see. Yes, of course, things change, but there's some people who thrive in change. I think that I'm one of these people. Even if I like it or I don't, my life has changed so many times in my upbringing that I'm always expecting change at some point, or sometimes even seeking it because I like the challenge. But some people definitely do not like change, and that doesn't mean that they're better or worse. It's just different. But then we may all have to reconsider how we adapt and how flexible we can be in these very, very uncertain times. And especially when we go back to some, like you said, a version of our previous selves in some way, we'll have to, that it will be different, right? And it will require people to keep that mentality of staying open to adapt.
Yeah, I agree. So, just before we wrap up, if going back to Mural, if people want to know more about Mural, try it out, how do they do that?
Well, they can go to mural.co.
CO, okay.
Yeah. Some people write .com. That's not the right one. .co is the right one. You can sign up for a free trial. Usually before COVID-19, we were offering trials of 1 month, but now we've extended it to 90 days. And in order to get that, you have to sign up, and then you look for a chat bot that we have in the dashboard once you have a license. And then, you can look at that. We also are going to continue offering Mural for free for any consultant or agencies who want to join the Mural Consultant Network. So that will give you up to 10 memberships for free, plus 25 guests that you can invite. And there's all the requirements there to see who is a consultant and who does not apply to that. And then we also will continue to offer Mural for free for educational purposes. So
that's great.
Mural.co/consultant and Mural.co/education is where you can find those. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'll add all those links in the show note. That's great. I mean, for the classroom, I think it's something I might suggest for my kids' school, because they've been, struggling a little bit to kind of figure out how to keep everyone in check. Like, what are you doing? Like, so maybe we'll just give that a try, and I'll definitely report back and let you know how it went.
For sure.
And if people want to stay in touch with you or learn more about you and your work, what's the best way to do that?
Stay in touch with me. You can find me on LinkedIn. Copy paste the name that you put here. It's Yaniv, sorry, not Yaniv. Laïla von Alvensleben on LinkedIn. Otherwise, I'm on Twitter at Laïla von A. So it's LAILAVONA on Twitter. And I also have a website. It's LailaVon.com. So it's not Laïla von with the A, it's without the A.
Okay.
That's my website.
Fantastic. Put those in the show notes as well. Laïla, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Yaniv. It's always fun to meet people who have been following Hano and what I was doing before for years, and they pop up and then they say, "Hey, let's chat." So it's great. Likewise, it's great to meet somebody who also gets what you're doing and has been really supporting it for such a long time.
Fantastic. Stay safe.
You too. I like to tell people stay sane right now. So stay sane, all of us.